you for joining us. I'm your hostess, Kayla Byers, and this is Champions of Discourse presents Debate This. This season, we will see two debaters go head-to-head in an impromptu battle of wits and passion. Each week, we will have a new judge to adjudicate the round, and by the end of the season, we will crown the winner. If you'd like to hear a bit more information about how debate works, check out our previous intro video. The link is in the description box. With each round, we hope to equip you with the tools necessary to be a critical thinker. For this round, the judge will be Danielle Creer. Danielle was born and raised in the Bay Area of California. She participated in speech and debate team in high school and also some college. She also has a background in working with youth and mental health with high acuity. Let's go ahead and get this round started.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Champions of Discourse presents Debate This. I am your host, Leah, and I'm here with my opponent, Janelle.
Hello.
And our judge of the day is Danielle. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Is that written correctly?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we're not doing 20 minutes. We'll go ahead and do 10 minutes of prep. Because it tends to work out better that way, and we're not just like wasting a whole lot of time. So just let us know whenever the prep starts.
Okay. Hold on real quick. And start. Leah, you'll have 6 minutes, okay? Let me know when you're ready.
All right. Thank you so much to our adjudicator of the day, Danielle. Appreciate you for being here. Thank you to my opponent, Janelle. We are arguing today. This house believes that pets are not children. A little bit of resolutional analysis. This house, we will say, is the federal, state, and local government does not recognize pets as animals that are domesticated, not can be, but animals that are domesticated currently. We're talking, for example, birds, cats, dogs, things of that nature. Guinea pigs are not children, and children is being defined as birthed of human beings that get the benefits of society. So the criteria that we have are the criteria that we're using today is qualitative versus quantitative analysis. So which pretty much means that we are arguing that whichever side can reason out better the quality of argument versus the quantity of argument. So even if you have, again, two arguments that can outweigh 10-point arguments. The first argument is that pets are animals that are birthed of animals and not birthed of human beings, while they run on instinct as opposed to empathy. The pets, you think of your dogs, your cats, while they can be treated like children, they are not children. They are not meant to keep the human race going. They do have the ability to coexist and even help out. You think of seeing eye dogs, you think of emotional support animals, and like even in acting jobs or in places where people need animals, especially like on a farmhand, things like that, where the animals have learned to work with human beings. We have learned to coexist. However, animals or even the pets are not children. We can teach them how to do different behaviors, but they do not then grow up to be productive members of our society. They are productive members as an aid to help out in chores or to help out in boosting moods or to help people conduct their business as need be. The second point is that children are birthed of human beings that grow up to be a part of society. You think of jobs, identification, cars, homes, wealth, things of that nature. Even animals who are pets who help. Like I have an ESA. I have an emotional support animal that helps me through anxiety. He helps me with with depression and making sure that I'm getting out of bed and taking care of things. But children actually take more time because they're not just where you can just put them in cages and just be like, you're in timeout for today, or you stay in there for a couple of hours. No, children, you actually have to attend to for all hours of the day, especially when they're first born. You are feeding them regularly because they have to learn they have to learn to be autonomous at a certain point in time, which animals never learn to really be autonomous. They need you for everything. Children will eventually grow up to be able to use the bathroom on their own, to be able to cook for themselves, to be able to think for themselves, to take care of themselves. Animals, no, they're always going to need you to make sure that you buy the food. They're going to need you. They're going to make sure that you prepare the food for them. They're going to make sure that you do what you're supposed to do as the owner of them, to take care of them. The third point is lineage. Yes, the third point is lineage. Children have the responsibility of carrying on lineage, which pets cannot do. The life expectancy of a child, once they grow up, is about 70 years. Pets, we'll say cats are about 15 years. Dogs can live an average of 10 years, and birds an average of 12 years. The lineage cannot be born out of pets. Wild pets can be a part of the family and take part in some moments. By and large, on a grand scale of things, you can have 14 different dogs in the same lifetime, but they will not carry on the lineage from generation to generation. So there's no passing on of wealth. There's no passing on of heritage. There's no passing on of history. And even any wealth or anything that's passed on, that's where people who are just so rich and they only have dogs and they leave everything to the dogs, all those funds go to the caretakers. None of those funds stay within a family, so to speak. They're all given to the caretakers. So for these reasons, it upholds the resolution that pets are not children. And I can see the rest of my time.
With the rest of that time, can you, just for a point of clarification, can you redefine or just go over the definition for children again? I missed it.
Oh, children is birthed by human beings.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Opposition, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, let me know when. Okay, I'm starting time now.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank our adjudicator and my opponent for being here today. We have this debate on This House Believes Pets Are Not Children. I am going to accept this House definition. The federal, state, and local government believes, as well as pets being domesticated animals. However, I do have some gripe with how we're defining children as being essentially human animals solely. And I'll begin to lay that out in my case, why I think we should have a little bit of a broader understanding of what classifies someone or someone being a human animal or a non-human animal to be considered a child. Qualitative resolution analysis continued around qualitative versus quantitative analysis. We accept that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to the government's case, and then I'll also, if I have some time, go on to my case. They argued that pets are not birthed by humans, right? They run on instinct, not emotion. They're not meant to keep up with the human race. They're only meant to sort of coexist, right? Throughout the government's case, she also provides some points that also go, I believe, to my case, in that pets indeed are meant to coexist, but in many cases they do run alongside, and even for some people help evolve alongside the human race. We mentioned sort of the emotional support animals. We mentioned guide dogs. We mentioned all these sorts of different animals that have been trained to be able to help not only be companions, but also to help human beings evolve, to get through therapeutics and so on and so forth, right? And so while pets are not necessarily birthed by humans, which I have some issue here, because we live in a world where human beings are the reason why pets are so domesticated. We have domesticated dogs, we have domesticated birds, we have domesticated cats, to where they are dependent upon us, even though we have not birthed them in ourselves. And in some cases, we've domesticated pigs, right? And so we've made them and we've placed them in this perpetual state of infantilization, to the point that in many ways they need us in the same ways that children do. And so that is my argument really for why we should change the definition of children, but also to get to the government's first point here. Going to their second point, children grow up and they contribute to society. I would argue that not all children grow up, and not all children contribute to society. Children take more time, absolutely, and they mentioned that in their earlier years, their infantile stages, children take time. Yes, but also do puppies, also do kittens and younger animals. These are also similar characteristics that human animals and non-human animals share. And so I think we need to also keep that in mind. And then they also mentioned under this point that, dogs and other non-human animals cannot be trained to be self-sufficient. But we have seen data where we've seen cats that have completely trained themselves to even use the actual toilets, right? And to be able to feed themselves and to create these sorts of habits. So it is through domestication that certain animals have been able to reach these abilities and agilities. Their third point is on lineage, and that children carry on the family lineage. Again, I want to challenge this. It depends on how your family is constructed. We're thinking of very heteronormative, very what's the word that I'm looking for? Nuclear type families. We aren't necessarily thinking about families that have adoption. There are a wide ranges of what family can look like, right? And so not all children will carry on families, certainly not. And so I think this is also an area where we can advocate that pets indeed can fit into it. And so now to get on to my case. My first point is we really need to think about the generation that is making a lot of change right now within this country and the world, and that's millennials. And we need to think about because of millennial socioeconomics, pets are indeed replacing children. And we see this with the decreasing birth rate, and especially amongst white households. We see this because millennials carry more debt, in particular student loan debt. We see this because millennials are less likely to own a house than previous generations because rent is too high. And so because a lot of them don't own houses, they live in apartment complexes or even sort of, faux luxury buildings. They don't have a place to raise families, but these apartments oftentimes come with dog parks, right? So there's no place for children, but there's a place for dogs. Increasingly, there are also more women going into the workforce. That means less time for child rearing, maternity leave, and those sorts of things. But there is more time for dogs, right? And so in many ways, we're seeing as a cultural shift, more millennials turning towards getting pets as a companionship and as a form of children and child rearing because of the socioeconomic status that this generation is confronted with. Two, I'm arguing that pets are children in part because of the financial liability. Very similar to children, pets are very expensive. We all can attest to this. I pay $82 a month for dog insurance for my 2 dogs that I have. You talk about dog food. You want good quality dog food. That stuff is expensive. Anytime we go out and we travel and we need someone to watch our dogs, just like you were paying a babysitter, you have to pay for a dog sitter. Those things can get very expensive. Vet bills. Banfield is expensive, right? And medication is also very expensive. These are also some of the core things that you would spend on your child here as well. So pets, similar to children, carry a level of financial liability that you also have to pay. And it's for that reason that the government should recognize that, right? They should recognize that we should have write-offs for paying for these things for our pets in order to keep them alive, because we've domesticated pets so much that if people didn't adopt and take in pets would just run the world. And we would just have a whole bunch of rogue and feral animals out there. Point number 3 is that pets provide emotional companionship as well as increasingly are occupying sort of familial status. And so we talked about, providing emotional support, therapeutics, there's being seen more so as children, but increasingly they're integrated into how we conceive of families, right? If we think about how cars are marketed with doggy car seats now, or even how we think about when we take our holiday holiday pictures, we want to include our dogs, right? Having costumes for your dogs for Halloween. They make up and fulfill part of that nuclear family, right? We talk about 2.5 kids. That's a boy, a girl, and a cat or a dog. And then my final point is that pets have been perpetually made into an infantilized state or made into children. And that's because we've over domesticated pets. We've made them into children because we've constantly bred them. And so it's for that reason that they are children and they do need our support and need to be recognized at the federal, state, and local governments. Thank you.
All right. Sorry about that. I was like, all right. And then now we're going to do Gov. You have 4 minutes, okay?
I'm sorry. Point of clarification really quick. Did you give a counter definition of children?
Yes. So I'm defining, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm defining, children as both human and non-human animals that have been domesticated.
Got it. I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay. And let's go.
Okay, so let's start with the definitions because that's where there's a little bit of contention on there. The opposition gave a counter definition of children being of human and animals. That is not how the federal, local, or state government sees pets. They are not children. They are puppies. They are kittens. They are tadpoles. They are little guineas. Like they're not identified as children. They're not given an ID. A driver's license, a state ID, a social security number. They're not given a birth certificate. The pets may have papers if they are champion bred, but they're not given recognized papers from the federal, state, or local government that would identify them as human beings. So that's why children should be identified as those who are birthed from human beings. That definition is more clear than the definition that the opposition is given. On to case first, and then I'll go off case. So the argument, my argument was that, wait, hold on. Okay, I'm sorry. We're going on case first. So the argument that she made that we're meant to coexist and they're meant to help and they've created a dependence on human, this makes them like children. Like I stated in my first argument, they are like children, but they are not children because no, they do not have the same access. They are not, they have been put in a situation where they can coexist as a species, but that does not mean that they are they are like children in that they're able to in that we take care of them, but they are not children. They help to evolve the human race, which is fine. Just like I said, yes, it does, which is my third point, but they are not birthed from us. The second point that I made was that we when we birth children, we help them to be autonomous. So yes, they do take time, but eventually they grow to some autonomy by and large, not just, her argument was just that not all children grow up to contribute, but most children do. There are people who contribute to society, whether they are on the right side of the law or the wrong side of the law, whether they push the boundaries or stay within the limits, they contribute to society. Animals, domesticated or not, do contribute to the animal kingdom, not to our society. On the lineage, extend my argument that children are the ones who create the lineage and keep the lineage going. It's not just for nuclear families, because if you're adopted or if you're a foster kid or grow up in the system, you still have a lineage that you can, especially when you're an adult and contributing to society, you have a lineage that you're upholding as a family. To her first off point is that Millennials, this whole argument really is just that millennials can't afford to have a family right now. And that does not mean that pets are children. They can be treated like children, which they are now, yes, but they are not children. They do not replace children. Children still take time. You still have to help them to grow autonomously. You still have to help them to move to be to contribute to society. Secondly, the financial liability, while it is similar, they are still not children.
And your time. All right.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Up, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll have 6 minutes.
All right. I think where we should start here again, as my opponent mentioned, is with the definition and our resolutional analysis that they have some contention around. While the government, federal, local, and state governments do not recognize pets as children with regards to issuing them driver's license, social security numbers, different forms of identification, the federal, state, and local government has, however, regulated and created lots of laws around what we can and cannot do with pets, including, we'd like to say, laws around pet and animal cruelty that look very similar to child neglect, right? So there is some parallel that exists there, right? And so because of that reason, I would continue to argue that we certainly do need to include pets as a form, non-human animals as a form of children within this definition. Additionally, which the opposition did not get to because it was my fourth point, perhaps they will get to it in one of their final speeches, is that it is actually the fault of human beings who have overly domesticated animals that we have so many pets in the first place, right? And these pets, as I mentioned, they're in this sort of perpetual state of childhood or infantilization because they have become overly domesticated. And if we do not take them in and treat them in many ways like our children or as our children, we will then have a society that is overrun by feral animals. Right. This is why we have animal control. That's why we have all these sort of regulations and things and whatnot that speak to how we treat animals, how we deal with, and when I say animals, I mean non-human animals and so on and so forth. And so with regards to how they're treated within the home is that for many people, they are their children. And they have this level of emotional attachment and companionship that is like children. And so I'm going to quickly run through some of the counter arguments or some of their arguments again that were put forth that were on their case, and then I'm going to get right to my voter issues here. So their first point is again, pets are not birthed by humans. Again, run on instinct, not emotion. They aren't humans. The reality is that we live in a society that is evolving, and for many people, pets are increasingly being treated like that they are their children. And I make that in my off-case point, specifically giving you the example of millennials who increasingly have a lower birth rate and are treating non-human animals like their children. They are their children. Many of the people will not have children, are unable to have children for a variety of reasons, including what I mentioned as finances, student loans. This is their only opportunity of having a child. And for some of these people, this is part of their lineage, how they at least imagine lineage. Their second point, children grow up to contribute to society. Children take time. Absolutely. Pets and animals also take time. We mentioned this. Puppies can take time. However, they can also be trained with such agilities and skills that they can also be self-sufficient and can also contribute to society. I remember going to, Angola prison with a group of my students, and we were learning how pets were being used as ESA animals and were being trained to be ESA animals, as well as blind seeing eye dogs and these sorts of things as a way to be able to positively contribute to society. That is an invaluable skill that we as human beings cannot provide to people. There is no substitute for a seeing eye dog. That is a major contribution to society. And so now to get to my case here, which really are my voter issues. And my first voter issue that I want to lay out is that we have to reckon with the damage that we've done as human beings through breeding, sometimes crossbreeding, not spraying and neutering our pets is that we have overly domesticated animals. Right. We have also overly developed much of society to where animals cannot be out in the wild and live and sustain themselves. And so they are in a perpetual state of childhood or infantilization because of this, right? Because we have limited their evolution in many ways because of this domestication. Thus, the onus is on us to be able to support them as if they are, because they are our children. It is our responsibility as human beings to take care of animals that have been overly domesticated. That's voter issue number one. Voter issue number two is the reality is that our birth rates are declining globally. Right. And with that, you have younger generations of people who will never have human children, and they treat dogs, cats, non-human animals as their children. They have this emotional connection. They have the financial liability that they're paying and investing in the lives of their animals, just like they would for their pets. They're paying for their safety, their health, all their bills and things like that. And so it's for those are my two voter issues: the perpetual childhood and infantilization, and the fact that they have been integrated into our families and social structures as contributing members of society who actually bring some good to us. And they cost us money. And so for that reason, I urge a opposition vote. Thank you.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, and go.
All right. So we're just going to start off here. There are many arguments that the opposition has made around the likeness, and that's all it is. It's not equality. There's likeness in the way that we treat animals and the way that we treat our children as millennials. However, you ask anyone who has children, their pets are not their children because they are not birth of human beings. The definition that the judge you would need to use to keep this round clear, fair, and to the point would be that children are defined as birth of human beings, because that is the clearest definition given in the round. The definition that the opposition gives no reason why we should use that definition or prefer her definition over the one that the government has given. So with that, we're going to get right into the voter issues. I'm going to just preface this by saying that the likeness, that the lines of likeness are not equality. People may not have or be able to afford children because of the financial stressors that we have, but that does not make it so that pets are considered children, because they are not born of human beings. The first reason why you're going to vote for this is that there has been no clear the autonomy that children have, that when they are taken care of as births, as babies, and then they grow up, they learn to be autonomous. Pets are not taught to be autonomous. They're taught to be dependent on people for their entire lives. Just as she said, whenever you go out on a trip, whenever something happens, the pet cannot verbalize that what is specifically that is wrong. Children are taught to learn how to be autonomous and taking care of themselves, cooking for themselves, feeding themselves, going on job interviews, things of that nature, contributing to society. And pets are not able to do that. Pets can't do that because they're animals. Animals have a place in society, but they do not keep society going. They can help. The second reason why you're voting for the government is lineage. Lineage is something that only children can do. Children are the only ones who can keep a cycle in a family going, a cycle of wealth, a cycle of name, a cycle of business. All those things are pushed forward by children. Dogs, cats, birds, guinea pigs, cows, whatever the domesticated animal is, though they cannot keep the family lineage going. It's the children that does that. And because of that reason, that is why pets are not children and should not be treated as such. So for those reasons, you will be voting for the government. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. So you have 2 minutes to You have 2 minutes to kind of like deliberate with yourself.
Okay.
While the judge is reviewing the cases presented, you should take this opportunity to share, like, and subscribe. You know, all the YouTube things. Who do you think won this round? Let me know in the comments down below. And the results are in.
All right, guys. I will admit this one was a hard situation. First and foremost, I would say there's just certain arguments that I would say, for instance, pets they depend on the owner. Janelle, I was hoping that you would bring up like people with special needs, or those who have chronic illnesses. They need a caretaker at all times. So then that way it would kind of argue that. But then also I was hoping you would bring up more of like the Leah, the SSI and like all the other things of like when their pets are not even on taxes. And I was hoping you would argue that too. So going to see who had Leah, I'm gonna go with you for this round. Janelle, I really wanted to go for you on this round, but there were certain things that wasn't making.
This was a difficult one to argue
because we all have pets, and it's just like
yeah. So I was like, oh, well, and the thing is, when you counter defined, I was like, oh, okay, but I thought it was going to be a little bit more. It was super. It made it gray area, if that makes sense. And that's where I was like, no. So that's how I felt about it. I don't know what others feel about it. They can disagree or agree. I don't know, but
it was a tough one. Especially with defining this house as the federal, state, and local government. I was like, oh, that's narrower than I wanted.
Was so stuck. I was like, this house. At first, I was gonna be like, me. I was like, no. I was gonna be like, change my mind.
No, I like taking notes just because I'm like, well, I mean, learning from both of you, but like taking notes because that, I mean, debate. So being able to say like, this is why I choose this side, or it's fun.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Champions of Discourse Presents Debate This. Thank you so much to my opponent, Janelle, and our judge today, Danielle. We'll see you next Thursday. Make sure you weigh in and let us know if you believe pets are children. Are they not children? Let us know. All right, we'll see you later. Have a good one.
Thank you for watching Champions of Discourse Presents Debate This. I have been your hostess, Kayla Byers. Be sure to tune in next Thursday.